My name is Jonathan Lochhaas. I am the Chief Technology Officer here at MBO Partners. Tell you a little bit about myself. I have been in the technology industry and technology management for more than 20 years, from building startups in both the U.S. and China to overseeing larger technology organizations at companies like Pitney Bowes and SiriusXM. My job here at MBO is to find ways to use technology to enable independent consultants to work better with their clients. Moving on. Next slide, please. In case you're not familiar with MBO Partners, at a high level, we make it easy for independent consultants and their clients to work together. And we do this by running a number of different back office functions for our consultants so that they can focus on the work that they love. We take care of taxes, invoices, contacts and business insurances. We also work hard to provide value to independents by creating a pretty wide range of educational content that is featured in our Independence Guide portion of our website, as well as in our webinar series. And beyond this, we like to provide information and support to help ICs grow their businesses, and with activities like today's webinar. Moving on. A couple of housekeeping things before we begin. You can see here the webinar controls. You can click the button with the small screen icon to move it into full screen mode, and don't hesitate to send questions across throughout the presentation by typing them into the box shown on the bottom there. We'll answer all those questions at the end of the presentation. I would, however, like to answer the most common question that we get. We will be emailing you a recording of this webinar. You should see it in your inbox early next week. Moving on. If you want to tweet questions to us, you can actually do that using today's hashtag, #MBOWeb. And if you want to pop questions up there as well, we'll answer those at the end of the presentation as well as time allows. Moving on. So as I mentioned earlier, we provide independent professionals with advice and support on how to build and grow their small businesses. Now, increasingly, there is a need for a solid, consistent, and accurate brand, and that is vital for small businesses and individuals. We are very fortunate to have with us today a leading brand strategist and expert in the technology startup sector, Hodge Flemings. Now, Hodge is the CEO and founder of Brandcamp University. He, as I mentioned, he's a digital technology and branding expert. He's been featured on CNN, Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, Mashable. The CNN spot is great. I've looked through most of these things. It's really very, very articulate and really interesting material if you get a chance to look at it. And his clients include Walt Disney, Pitney Bowes, where I used to work, U.S. Department of Defense, and a bunch of higher education institutions. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Hodge, and he can continue and fill us in on his expertise. Hodge?
Well, thank you, Jonathan. I'm excited to be here today. I'm excited to be talking to 300 or so of the top independent professionals in the world. And so, again, we're going to have a good time today. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to cover from personal branding, talking a lot about digital technology and really how to position yourself so that you can really get the type of work and do the kind of things that you want to do in the business space that you're in. We're going to make sure that we save time at the end. I believe we're going to save about 15 minutes for questions at the end, so we want to make sure that we answer the question that you have specifically. So as we get started, what I want to do is go through the title. This is Digital Strategies for Independent Professionals, how the right tools can boost your bottom line. So we're going to jump right into it. What I want to start out with is I want to lay a foundation for branding first so that we're all on the same page, because what we're going to talk about from a technology standpoint is going to be greatly impacted or is going to greatly impact or really position you from a brand standpoint. So these are going to kind of unparalleled. So again, if we needed to provide an academic definition, this is what I would say a brand is. A brand really is a set of expectations, memories, stories, relationships that taken together account for a consumer's decision to choose one product or service over another. And really, when you think about a brand is more than a logo. It's more than colors, even though those are elements that tie into the brand. But at the end of the day, truly what a brand is, that a brand should be a catalyst. And that catalyst should drive an economic decision on the part of a consumer. So what that means is that as an individual or as an independent professional, your personal brand should drive companies, corporations, nonprofits, or other professionals to choose your products or your services over someone else's. And if a brand is not able to do that, then in my opinion, there isn't much value to that brand. And so again, we want to get you to think about all of the experiences, all of the impressions, the touch points, the interaction, the engagement that people have in terms of being able to connect with you as a person, whether that's digitally, whether that's face-to-face. All of these really help to form the opinion and the perception of how the outside world views you. When you think about your brand is not who you say it is. It's what the outside world says about you. And so what we want to do is that we want to be thoughtful in terms of how we help this collection of information and how the story is told. And we want to get into storytelling a little bit further in the presentation. Again, brand, in my personal opinion, are not things that should be just manufactured. It should be authentic. There are a lot of examples out there today of manufactured brands, but when I say authentic, it needs to be true to who you are, because at the end of the day, people have a radar for garbage or for junk. And so at the end of the day, the term that we use is called a brand promise, meaning that there's going to be something that you're going to put out there. And so now you're telling people that this is what they can expect when they do business with you. Now the brand guarantee is, now were you able to live up to whatever the promise is that you communicated out to the general public or to potential consumers? Because again, that becomes important. When you think about brands and you begin to think about yourself as a brand, I want you to think about this. There are various elements or the various dimensions to a brand. And when we talk about a brand, we're talking about, for the independent business professional, there's a business brand, and then there's the personal brand. So the personal brand typically is the face or one of the faces of the business brand, and then there's a brand, in terms of the business or the business function or the DBA that you have in whatever state or states that you do business in. But as we think about brands, there's a visual element, there's an audible element, there's a physical element, there's a virtual element. Brands are services, brands are products, brands are people, and really brands are everywhere. So if we look at our first point, when we say that a brand is visual, people make decisions based upon a lot of visual elements. When you think about a brand, people don't always purchase or buy products or services purely for utility. They don't. When people go out and buy products, or just think about yourself. When you purchase things, we don't buy things just because that's what we need. There are a lot of emotions that are involved when people make decisions. And so part of what you have to think about is there's a visual impression. So as you look at these slides, for me, that's part of me making a positive visual impression, because I make sure that I spend time developing slides that are going to be able to communicate information. So if you're doing a presentation, one of the things that you have to think about is, okay, how does this impact the credibility of what I do? When you physically walk in the room, right, there's going to be a certain perception for things. I've even read this one blog post that I thought was really interesting, where it talked about how people hire people that look like somebody that they would date. Now I'm not insinuating that you have to be a 25-pound model that is in Hollywood, but what I am saying is that people make decisions for a lot of reasons, rational and irrational. Part of your brand is going to be audible. For some of you, you might run businesses where there's a lot of content, video, or there might be audio content if it's SoundCloud, or if you have content in YouTube, and so people make decisions, or there's a certain impression that's going to be communicated with that. And so again, making sure that it's clear, making sure that the tone is correct is going to be important. And so we can get into a lot of these other things, but again, I want you to really kind of think about all of these cues and the various impressions that are made. And these things are made sometimes, or in many cases, without you even being in the room. And so as we go through today's presentation, we're going to talk about how do you kind of manage and steward your brand using technology as a way to be able to help ideas spread. And again, think about your brands are everywhere. I believe I read something that said that the average person is inundated with about 3,000 brand impressions per day. So from TV, radio, from phones, billboards right down the street, a lot of different things. So again, at the end of the day, some of the things that happen from having a strong brand, a very sustainable brand, is that people want to share information. So as you are sharing or posting content online about your business, you want to make it easy. You want to make it so that information is social. You want to make it so it's easy for someone to be able to share your website, share the information that you're posting so that what you're doing can spread. When you think about brands that are very strong, people want to have an association with them. So at the end of the day, you want to really establish and position yourself so that now you have the opportunity to be able to partner with some of the top tier brands in your industry. Because again, these types of partnerships can create a lot of positive business opportunities. But also having that people are willing to pay premium, right? So again, the opportunity based upon what you do in your tier of services, the way so that people will want to be able to pay more for a certain level of services. But again, developing this brand is going to be critically important to that. And then again, it causes people to want to hire you, to promote you. And as individual or independent professionals, we want word of mouth to be able to spread so that other companies or other entities want to bring us in and actually want to hire us.